We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships.
This is the Couples Academy Show. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani, and it is an honor to be with each and every one of you. I just want to start off by acknowledging the few that are on: B. O'Neill, Vashawn, Rick, and Fedalina. Listen, as you're tuning in, just let us know where you're from so that we can acknowledge you as we engage in this conversation. Now, as you know, we have been in a 4-part series, a phenomenal 4-part series entitled Before You Cheat, okay? What you need to know before you cheat. And interestingly enough, you never know who it's going to resonate with, but we have been getting phone calls from individuals, texts and emails saying that this has been very helpful for them. A lot of times, if you could think different and do different, you would do. And this is helping people to really reflect and to see where they've gone off course. But for those who have not gone down this path yet, hopefully, a lot of times we say, if I had known better, I would have done better. Well, hopefully that's the case. So if this hasn't been your reality, make an intentional effort to not allow it to be and take heed to what has been said. Anyway, we're going to dive right in. We have a lot to talk about today. I want to come from a different angle. We've been talking about what you need to know, right? But I want to really focus on this morning what you need to think about before you cheat. What are the things that need to begin to go through your mind that you need to contemplate? Because, we've talked about this before. A lot of times there is a slippery slope in terms of our thinking process that leads us to an affair. Oftentimes we don't just slip on a banana peel and wind up in an affair. There were micro decisions made along the way. There were rationalizations. There were justifications that were made along the way that allowed us to even be in such a position. And so then the question becomes, is this, have we really given true thought to this? Have we asked ourselves the hard questions? Because if we really begin to ask ourselves the hard questions and give thought to it, it may keep us from going down that path. So let's dive into today's topic. The first question you want to ask yourself is, will cheating fix my relationship? Now, we can look at that and say, ultimately, no, of course it won't. But when you are in a place of desperation, if you are in a space of discontent and you're frustrated, you're disconnected, you're not thinking or caring about anything or anyone else except for yourself, you make decisions that ultimately do not serve you. But the question is, will cheating fix things? So if things are currently bad, will cheating make things better? If you have poor communication, will cheating enhance it? If you're financially strained and have challenges within your relationship, will cheating fix that? If there's a hole in your relationship, an emotional disconnect, and you can't see the same way, you're not on the same page, there's constant disagreement and turmoil, will cheating fix that? Think about all the challenges that you currently have. Will cheating make things better? Will they change it? Will they remove the problem? And I think if we really think about this long enough, we will realize it does not. And this really speaks to one of the reasons why people do what they do. Oftentimes they do what they do is because they're trying to escape their current situation. Not necessarily escaping the relationship, but escaping the hardships and the challenges within their relationship. So if I can engage in something that removes me from the thought and the feeling and the struggle that I constantly have, I'm willing to do it, even if it's just for a moment, even if it's just for a season. And while it may provide some type of emotional or intellectual or physical pleasure, it can literally destroy the relationship and ultimately the relationship that you have with yourself and with your God as well. So certainly it does not fix anything. And I want you guys to weigh in on these questions, to ask yourself, Have you given these questions thought? Have you contemplated these things? Because I think one of the challenges is that oftentimes the betrayed spouse thinks that when their unfaithful partner has cheated, it was just an easy decision. They gave no thought to anything. There was no internal struggle. And oftentimes there is. Either there's an internal struggle in the beginning of that affair, or there's an internal struggle towards the end of the affair where they're constantly vacillating back and forth, and there's an internal battle within themselves for what they should do. Should I stay? Should I go? And these are some of the questions that begin to arise. Here's another one. Am I trying to fill a void? Now, this is interesting because the void that exists can either be a void in the relationship or a void within oneself. Let's talk about the void within oneself. We've seen before where many people have admitted that they've cheated because of their own deficit, their own insecurities, their own self-esteem issues. They were in search for something that they feel was not found in their relationship. They had a high demand on their spouse to do a particular thing that they were not doing. And so for them, there was a void. And so entering into an affair relationship in their minds filled the void. Now, what I would say is it's quite possible that you got something out of the affair that you didn't get out of your marriage, but it was a temporary fix, right? Think about it. When people do drugs or do alcohol, they're doing it because they're trying to get a feeling. They're chasing a feeling, chasing a high, chasing this euphoria, but it's short-lived. And even though you are on a high, that high comes right back down. And oftentimes you can crash down, and sometimes the aftermath of that feeling is not worth it. Oftentimes it's not worth it. But many people do things to fill a void, even though it's not a permanent fill. It is a temporary fill, which requires you continuing to go back again and again and again. And then you realize, I just feel empty because this is not doing what I thought it would do. Maybe there's something in the relationship that's lacking, that's missing, and you seek to find it elsewhere. And you do, right? I'm not going to say that it doesn't fill a void for anyone. That's why some people stay in relationships so long, because they're getting from someone else what they can't get from their partner, or they can't get from their particular relationship. Let me just give you a quick scenario. This doesn't have to be your situation, but I'm just giving you something random off the top of my head. Let's just say I'm in a relationship and we have zero fun because my partner is a homebody, never wants to do anything, never wants to go out. But for me, there's a desire for more. I have a thrill for adventure. I like being in the street. I like seeing and exploring new things. I can't have that with you. That is not a part of your personality dynamic, but I can have that with someone else. And so the main drive for this affair may not be sexual, though sex oftentimes comes along with an affair. One of the main drives is the need for excitement and the fulfillment of it in this relational dynamic, right? So that becomes the justification for why we do what we do. And we find it and we're comfortable. And oftentimes people who are in an affair don't want to leave, particularly men. They don't want to leave their marriage because their marriage has certain benefits, but this affair relationship has certain benefits, and they feel like they're getting the best of both worlds. But eventually things start crashing down. And you realize that, wait, this affair relationship, though it may be providing me this, it's coming at a high cost and a high price that I did not consider. And now I'm in a relational crisis with my partner because I chose to fill a void rather than not just talking to about it. Maybe we've had several conversations, but actually, did we do something? Did we attempt to do something about it? Okay. And so these are the things that I want you to begin to think about as we go further into this conversation. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know, what did you think or did you not think about prior to the affair that resulted in the space and the season that you are currently in? Listen, you're watching the Couples Academy Show. We'll be right back after this quick break. Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Couples Academy show. Forgive me, I don't have my producer with me. I'm just clicking buttons trying to get to the next thing. And you saw a few things, but we're back. Listen, we're talking about before you cheat, what you need to know, what you need to think about. I do want to go to Sherry, who asks, is it something wrong with a man suddenly he accused you of something to get you out the room? I don't quite understand what you mean. Can you retype that so that I can clearly understand it, and then I will address that? I appreciate that. And please, if you have a question, feel free to chime in. We're going to go to the next point. And the next point is, am I taking the easy way out by cheating? That's a very good question. It's a very good question. You know, if you're using cheating as a quick fix to get a need or desire met, and you're not willing to do the hard work, then obviously, yes. If you're using it as a form of escape, then obviously, yes. If you're using an affair because you are in pursuit of another side of yourself that you cannot find in your current relationship, and the affair allows you to experience it, then the answer is yes. Because once again, it is a quick fix, but it has a long-term negative implication once it gets discovered. And so, guys, it's the wrong path for you to choose. It's what you don't want to do. And oftentimes, people who are not willing to put in the work, who are not willing to realize that a marriage is spelled W-O-R-K. I remember there's a TV show Danielle and I used to have here in Atlanta, and I said, marriage is spelled W-O-R-K. She said, no, it's spelled Hardwork, because it is hard work. Nobody ever said it would not be hard. It would not be difficult. If you think about everything that you have in your life, if you think about your career, if you think about your education, if you think about that beautiful home you have, that nice car you have, if you think about any goal that you've accomplished, anything that you can point to and say, man, I've obtained that, most likely it did not come easy. It took hard work. It took labor. It took sacrifice. It took a mindset that allowed you to get through the exhaustion because you had something in mind that you wanted to accomplish, and you were willing to do whatever it took to get what it is that you want. The question is, are you willing to do what it takes to get what it is that you say that you want? Are you willing to wake up early in the morning and stay up late at night and to work all hours in between? Are you willing to, when you are in pursuit of something, you will sacrifice whatever is necessary to accomplish the goal. But somehow when it comes to relationships, we oftentimes want to tap out. We want to cry uncle. We want to give up, cave in, and quit because this is too hard and this is too challenging. So it seems like we don't have the mindset that's necessary to overcome the mountains that we face in our marriage the way we do when it comes to other areas of life. And so because of that, we take the easy way out because we think it shouldn't be this difficult. It shouldn't be this hard. It should just be easy. And that's why we choose the easy path, which oftentimes leads to destruction. It's so interesting when I think about the scriptures, it talks about the paths that lead to heaven and hell. Like the path to heaven is narrow, but the path to hell is wide, because so many people rather choose the easy way out, but it doesn't get them where they want to go. It puts them in a destination that they do not want to be in. And there is a hell that you will experience in your relationship. Hopefully not permanently, but there's certainly hell that you're going to go through if you choose the easy path. And that is not what we want you to do. We want you to choose not necessarily the path of least resistance, but we want you to be able to face the challenges with your partner and figure out how to overcome them. And that kind of leads to the next point. The next point is, have I done what I can do to make the relationship work? I think that's a very good question. And so the question I have for you is, what have you done? If you're in a situation or a season right now where things are rocky, things are off, there's not this flow, there's not this consistency, there's not this, ease, if you will, to your relationship, what have you done? Have you read a book? We've been mentioning books every day on the show. We even read from certain books. Have you taken a course or a class? Have you gone to a seminar? Have you done an intensive? Have you gone to a counselor? What have you done? Because if you haven't done anything, then you haven't put in the work. Listen, saying I do was the easiest part of this journey. But the reality is, I do is not something that you said 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I do is something that you have to say every single day. The problem is many of us say I do on our wedding day, and we spend the rest of our marriage saying I don't or I won't. And that's the problem. And so we've signed up with vows and promises and oaths of who we would be and what we would do. And what we do is we get caught up in our feelings. We didn't realize that this work was going to be as painstaking as it would be. And oftentimes we're tempted to throw in the towel or just do nothing. And if you do nothing, you will get nothing out of it. So the question is, are you willing to put forth the work? Are you willing to bend over backwards? Are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to be inconvenienced? If that's what it took to get your relationship back on track. Because here's the reality. Oftentimes, we wake up when we face the crisis within our relationship. So once the affair is exposed and now our spouse is ready to leave, then we're willing to do whatever it takes. Why do we have to face destruction? Why do we have to face the threat of termination or divorce or the death of the relationship before we realize what we need to do in order to restore it? It should not take that long. In fact, because you watch this show every single day, you should be inspired and motivated to do the work because you see the path that other people have gone down. And see, wisdom isn't necessarily learning from your own experiences. Wisdom is learning from the experiences of others so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And when you choose to do that, everything begins to change. I want to go to another point. If I want to cheat, why am I even staying in the relationship? This is a question that you need to ask yourself, right? Why am I here? Like, is this where I really want to be? Oftentimes, interestingly enough, most people don't want to leave, but they feel so frustrated and they feel so hopeless and helpless and they haven't had a community of wise individuals around them, speaking into them, pouring into them. They haven't tapped into their God, seeking wisdom and guidance from above. They're listening to their own stories, their own narrative. They're caught up in their own feelings. They're thinking their own thoughts, which have been infused by everything that they're frustrated about. And they've convinced themselves that this is the best option, when the fact of the matter is it is the worst option. And even though they have possibly contemplated leaving the marriage, you have to understand there's two laws here. There's the law of attraction and the law of attachment. We've said this before. The law of attraction is what you initially have with your spouse. That's based upon physical attraction, emotional desirability. There was something that drew you two together. But then over the course of these many years, you've had children, you have finances, you've built a life, a home, a community, a culture together. These are the things that have attached you to each other. So being married to you means that being married to you means that I'm attached to the children that we've created, attached to the home that we've purchased, attached to the finances that we've, hopefully saved and invested in, attached to a community that we formed. There's so many things that are attached to you that if I detach myself from you, I potentially detach myself from all of those other things. And because I'm not willing to detach myself from you and all these other things, I will stay in this relationship, even though I'm not happy, but I'll pursue an illicit relationship to seek a form of happiness that I feel that I'm not finding. So what I've discovered is that generally speaking, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we see more men who will cheat but still have a desire to stay in the relationship. We see women who cheat. Now, once again, this is very general. This may not apply to all people, but a lot of times women have already made the decision mentally that they're gone, emotionally that they're gone. They're only hanging on, maybe because of finances, maybe because of kids, but if they could go, they would go. But because they can't go, the next best thing is to engage in a relationship. And these are the things that happen. These are the challenges that occur within ourselves that cause us to do what we do. And that's why you have to be careful who you listen to. Who is speaking in your ear? Who is giving you advice? Who are you following, as a thought leader online? Who is feeding you? The information that they're giving you, is it helping to restore your relationship, or is it pulling you further away? Is it giving you reasons and justifications to cheat, or is it starving you of every excuse possible to go down those paths? That's what you need to ask yourself, because the more you put into your system everything that would justify why you should not honor your marriage, it is an inevitability. But when you starve out all the negative noise, and when you starve out all the negative opinions and all of the bad examples, it gives you a little bit more staying power to do what's necessary to restore the relationship. All right, we got a couple questions. I'm going to Jody. Good morning, people. If you are struggling, wake up and listen. The man knows his stuff. Thank you, Jody. I appreciate you. We loved having you this past weekend. You and Debbie, it was amazing. And we look forward to staying continually connected to you. All right, Ralph says, the song Stairway to Heaven and Highway to Hell describes it well, saying the way to heaven is a hard journey and the way to hell is a fast lane that is easy. Brother, I couldn't have said that better myself. And many of us don't have to wait till we die to experience heaven and hell. Many of you are experiencing it right here, right now on earth, okay? And so the question is, what do you want to experience? Do you want to experience hell? Well, keep doing all the bad things that you're doing. And guess what? You're signing up for it. If you want to experience heaven, even if you feel you're in a hellish relationship right now, everything can turn around. Trust me. Danielle and I are walking, talking, living, breathing examples of people who were in a bad place in space, but were willing to do the work necessary to restore the relationship. Now, we have challenges, we have ups and downs, because that's a part of life and that's a part of marriage. But I'm telling you, you can have a heavenly experience within your relationship if you're willing to do the work. Next point, D says, if you start with a counselor, but the counselor is very dry, how do you get your partner to see it without him accusing me of not being honest with his? Okay, let me reread that. If you start with a counselor, but the counselor is very dry, how do you get your partner to see it without him? Oh, okay, accusing me of not being honest with this lady. We aren't getting anywhere with her. Okay. Here's the deal. And we've said this before. If it works for you and doesn't work for your partner, it doesn't work for your marriage. If it works for your partner and doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for your marriage. So you have to make decisions that will work for you as a couple. I say this all the time. I'm not fighting for your first name. I'm fighting for your last name. So if you are Team Smith, Team Brooks, Team Payne, Team Pettiford, listen, what works for team, whatever your last name is. And so this is where we have to begin to learn how to properly negotiate and come up with something that's mutually beneficial. We see this all the time. One spouse loves a practitioner, the other spouse doesn't, for whatever the reason may be. Now, if that partner doesn't like the counselor they're going to, somebody's going to shut down. Somebody's going to feel some type of way, and it's not going to serve you. And this is why it is so critically important to date the counselor. What do I mean by that? One of the things that you want to do, don't just make a decision to choose a counselor based upon a profile online. Get on the phone with them, have a conversation with them, have a consultation, right? Question them, ask them about their philosophy, ask them about their positions, ask them about their belief system, like date them for a minute. Because once you do that and there's familiarity, how else do you date them? Follow them, read their articles, read their books, watch their videos. Is there content out there? See, the reason why many of you have signed on board and have been comfortable with us, because you had an experience with us prior to us working together. And so that's what I would encourage you to do. And so you have to find someone who's fair and balanced, isn't partial to one over the other. And you have to find someone who can speak into your life in a way that resonates. One of the biggest challenges that we hear people say is this counselor could not relate to us. Either, I don't know, it may have been their age. Maybe they were decades and decades old. And so they were saying that the things that they're talking about aren't relevant to our situation. We need someone who can understand where we are, someone who understands our generation, someone who understands our faith tradition, someone who understands our culture. You have to find a good fit. And when you find a good fit that works for you, stay with them. And just know, I say this all the time. In the beginning, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to feel good. Someone once said if you saw a doctor and you walked into the operation room in the middle of a surgery, all you would see are blood and guts and everything all over the place. It would look like a massacre because you're entering into this operating room in the middle of a surgery. But once the surgery is done and they're patched up and cleaned up, it looks a whole lot better. The point is, when you enter into counseling, it may get worse before it gets better because they're going to have to rip off band-aids and cut things open and begin to do surgery. And they're going to force you to have conversations that you wouldn't have had on your own because you were living life by avoidance. Maybe one of you was open, the other one wasn't. And now this counselor is going to guide you through a process to pull everything out, and it's not going to feel good. And that's when we are tempted to give up, cave in, and quit and throw in the towel because we don't like the process. But I'm going to tell you something. If you want to get to your final destination, you may have to get out of the driver's seat. You may have to get in the back seat with your seatbelt on and allow somebody else to guide and steer that journey so that you can get to your final destination. Okay? So that means that you have to be submitted. You have to be humble. You have to be coachable. You have to be teachable. And when you are, you'll be amazed at the transformation that takes place. Jody says, happened to me. Break away from that counsel. She actually made me feel worse. I'm sorry. I will make it easy for you. Call the Discovery. Yeah, I appreciate that. He's saying, pick up the phone and call us. Have a Discovery call. I'm going to tell you something. Overwhelmingly, the majority of our clients, probably about 75% have been with previous practitioners, and it just didn't work for them. You know, it wasn't a good fit. We've been working with couples who've been to 3 and 4 and 5 different counselors who did not specialize in what they needed. And so you don't want to go to a general practitioner. You want to go to someone who specializes in exactly what you need. And when you do that, everything begins to change for your relationship. So guys, we've been talking about before you cheat, what you need to ask yourself, what you need to consider, what you need to understand in terms of the consequences. I hope that this particular session served you well. One more comment. Apple says, my husband has given up on any kind of therapy due to him not digging the process. Shake my head. Well, this is what I will say. All things are subject to change. It's interesting how there are seasons when one spouse is 100% on board and willing to do whatever it takes. The other spouse is just not interested and they're disagreeable. And then something shifts. There's always a shift that takes place. And the one who was not motivated now is motivated. But unfortunately, the one who was willing to do the work is no longer interested because they would say, you had your season, you had your time, I gave you my all, and then now you're not willing to do that. That's an indication that that is our time, folks. My camera went off, but I will see you all tomorrow for relationship Q&A. That's what we're going to be talking about. See what happens when you don't have your producer with you. Well, we're talking about relationship Q&A, guys, tomorrow. So come with your questions. Let's make tomorrow an amazing start to an incredible weekend. I will see you on the AM. Take care.